What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at Witchfire's latest update, which is a game I have covered once previously when it was just about to enter early access on Steam, a little shy of 1 year ago. Now, I believe this video should be going live right as the update itself drops, and that is obviously possible because the game's developers reached out and asked if I wanted to take an early look at it. Now, I had not played in a while, so they actually also provided me some save files so I could jump straight into the later parts of the game, specifically the new content and everything, so I could see and cover that. But given how much I enjoyed playing this the first time around, I thought it would be fun to take a quick look at what has changed since then, what this particular update brings us, and just kind of how things have been going. So, as it stands, this is the release of what they are calling the Webgrave update, which brings things like a new zone to explore called Velmorn, a complete rework of the stats, a new weapon, and a couple of other things we'll get to. But if you've never played this game before, let's start there. So, Witchfire is a combination of a lot of different things that I think winds up working particularly well. So it's got elements of a roguelite, an extraction shooter, a little bit of that Souls-like formula in there as well, and in many ways I think the game easiest to compare it to, although it still is a little bit different, is probably something like Remnant 1 or 2. But in the case of this game, you'll basically get dropped into various maps and things, trying to pull together as much resources as possible before you either leave or complete the objective for that map. Then you can spend those resources on a whole bunch of permanent upgrades and things at your actual base, which will improve everything as you go, and that's kind of the basic gameplay loop there, but there is actually a story involved as well. In particular, we play as a prayer, or a witch hunter to be a little more specific, because there is a witch causing a whole host of problems, and our job is to stop that from happening, with the end game eventually being actually tracking down and fighting this witch. But the early access doesn't quite get that far. As of yet, anyway. Now, when I initially took a look at this almost a year ago, what was in the game was actually a couple of the maps and like most of the core features. But they've expanded quite a lot since then. They've added like 2 different maps, more story, more weapons, just, all that stuff really. They even added what appears to be a pretty basic tutorial, which I don't remember being in there last time if you want to jump into that. So it's come a long way and it is surprisingly fun. And I think a lot of that is actually down to the maps themselves, because while they are set up to be sort of roguelite in nature, they are packed full of hidden secrets, stuff to find, and that goes a long way towards making each run feel unique in a way that is not all that dissimilar from something like, again, Remnant 1 or 2. But from there, let's actually dive into the changes for this update specifically. So, one of the most drastic is the changes they made to stats here. Pretty much a total rework. They renamed a bunch of them, altered how they work, what they impact, and while the core functionality is still the same in the sense that it's essentially a Souls-like leveling system where as you are in these runs, you gain a currency called Witchfire, which then serves as your experience, and you take that back to your hub to level your character up. You do this by increasing one of your 6 stats, which gives you incremental bonuses as you go. But what has changed here is that these now should be more impactful, like actually specializing in a thing will make you dramatically better at that thing. Be that, using magic, your weapons, health, stamina, all the usual stuff. But in addition to that, basically every stat is in control of 3 secondary stats, including some base stuff that raises just as you level passively to keep everybody kind of moving. Each of these stats individually has a cap of 100. Now, to coincide with this change, if you've been playing up to this point, when you load into this update, you should be given a free respec item if you want to use it, which will completely let you overhaul everything for free. So there is that. Now, a common enough feature in Souls-likes and everything is gear with stat requirements in order to be used or more effective at using a particular item. The devs have stated that's not something they want to do here, but they did kind of want to help people still use stats to like specialize gear and stuff as well in a way, which is where the rosary comes in. So you have a rosary which allows you to equip various beads, and each of these beads does actually have stat requirements in order to get the boost from it. There's a bunch of these, but this is kind of their take on that particular system, which I thought was worth mentioning since we were on the subject of stats. But when it comes to this game, an important distinction to be made is the difference between leveling up, or what the game calls ascension, and the actual overall difficulty of the runs, which is a system that is more like something like Bloodborne's Insight system as an example, but here it's called Gnosis. Basically, Gnosis is like a difficulty progression to the game itself. So as you get resources and everything, you'll be able to increase the Gnosis level of your current run. This is a permanent change once you do this, but what it does is allow you to interact with more stuff. It unlocks things, allows you to continue progressing the story, see new secrets, just all sorts of stuff like that. That has been in the game previously. That is not new, mind you, but what is changing here is that this update actually rebalances it a bit, because it adds a couple more of those progression levels. Previously, or well, I mean, I guess still currently, the Gnosis progression is actually kind of squished a little bit. That is to say, it's a pretty steep curve, because their final version is going to take you up to like level 10 of this. And in the final version, the curve on that difficulty increase is going to be a bit smoother, whereas here, each level increase of this kind of more dramatically increases the difficulty, but that will have started to smooth out because they've added 2 new levels, and thus the scaling there should kind of spread itself out and feel a little rebalanced as a result of this update. But that is something that will continue in the future. Now, probably one of the biggest things this update brings, realistically, is actually the new zone. This one being a sort of blighted village known as Velmorn. As with any new level, you can expect things like new events, new enemies. The townswoman one was especially disturbing to look at, to be honest. But simply put, it should be bringing you all new challenges and fights to overcome, secrets to unlock, that kind of thing. As I mentioned, each one of these maps does actually tend to be fairly dense. Now, while that is the bulk of everything, there have also been a variety of tweaks and small changes to other things like the research system, which is how you do things like unlock new weapons, how you upgrade those, that kind of thing. So this is hardly an exhaustive example of everything this update brings, but all in all, I would say that at least for me personally, this game was pretty fun when I checked it out originally. It seems to be doing very well, kind of coming along in early access. I believe currently they are looking at like a Q1 2026 release window, because right now there's about 2 more major updates to go that are supposed to be coming in the back half of this year, 2025, before the 1.0 drops early next year. But even now, in its current state, I'm having quite a bit of fun with it, and I can pretty much guarantee I'll be reviewing this next year when it drops, in 1.0 that is, and I'm looking forward to it. As much as this isn't necessarily kind of my normal game to play, it does have a way of really drawing me in, as it's the kind of thing I can just play for a little while, and the next thing I know, 2 or 3 hours have gone by, and I've suddenly got to stop to actually get some stuff done. But in any event, I hope you enjoyed the update. If you did, by all means, let me know down in the comments section below, which of course means to like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. Let me know how you feel about Witchfire these days. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.